All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending. I'm Rohit Kalbag, VP of Product Marketing. And we also have with us here Sean, who is a technical sales engineer. Sean, you want to say hi or should we go on?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I'm looking forward to this webinar. And yeah, Rohit, back to you.
Thanks. So both Sean and I, we have collaborated on this webinar to cover some of the topics that we thought would be very interesting to folks like you who want to use CloudConnexa for personal use. CloudConnexa is really meant for businesses, but we do have a free plan which allows for use of 3 connections. You can sign up on our website without using a credit card. And once you sign up, you have access to the 3 connections and you can use the service as you like. As a company, we are very glad that our solution, it's proving useful to so many businesses and personal users alike. Before I move on to the agenda, I just want to mention that you are welcome to ask questions using the Q&A function of Zoom, and I'll try and answer any questions that I can live. If not, Sean might be answering them, and it will move to the answered questions tab. So if the question is answered, it goes to the answered questions tab. And if there are more replies, a thread starts in there. So watch out for that. All right, so let's go to the agenda. Okay. My PowerPoint is acting up. Hold on a second. Let me stop sharing and start again. Okay, Sean, can you see my screen now?
No, not yet. I can see your screen.
How about
Okay,
now?
it's coming up. Now I can see the agenda.
Okay, and it's progressing too. All right. So sorry about that. As we said in our webinar, on our webinar registration page, we are going to cover 4 scenarios here today. And that's what is in the agenda. So there's no false advertising here. So we are going to cover these things. But before we start delving into the specific use cases, I'm just going to talk a bit about CloudConnexa, just to give everyone a baseline on the key terms and the platform as well as the service. And how it's going to go is for all the use cases, I'll be setting up the scenario, providing some diagrams, kind of explaining the concepts, the traffic flow, and then Sean will take over and show you how to set things up and demonstrate the functioning. So after I cover the introduction, we will proceed to see how just by using or connecting to CloudConnexa, you can use our Cyber Shield feature, which can protect you from a variety of cyber threats. Then we will be going on to see how CloudConnexa makes connecting to your remote desktop at home super easy, super simple. And we'll progress. So this is progressing in terms of difficulty. So first is just connecting to get cybersecurity. next is an easier setup for secure RDP. Then we go into remote access so that you can access your home network, access maybe your home network printer, some network access, network attached storage, any of the services or servers you have running in your home network. Then we will cover how you can use your home network to get secure access to the internet. Basically using your home network internet connectivity and your home network as a internet gateway to access internet securely, as well as a unique feature of how you can secure traffic flows to only select internet destinations or applications. So all your traffic doesn't get tunneled to your home network and go to the internet, but just some specific domains that you are interested in. So moving on to the introduction. So let's talk about CloudConnexa. What is CloudConnexa? You can think of CloudConnexa as a cloud delivered service that creates a virtual overlay network. Once this network is created, you can then connect together securely various internet accessible things. Those can be users, applications, networks, IoT devices, essentially anything that is internet accessible, but is private. So we have about 30 worldwide locations or points of presence from which you can connect to CloudConnexa and use the service. We have also integrated some advanced security functions into CloudConnexa, which we will touch into later. And going to regions, so earlier I mentioned POPs or points of presence. These we have labeled as regions. So in the CloudConnexa admin portal, or even as a user, you will see the term regions. So regions are locations around the world where you can think we have data centers. That's where we host our servers, which are high performance, kernel optimized, and they interconnect to each other using full mesh topology. So each of these POPs is connected to all the other POPs. And we use full mesh, so there is always a direct, one path is always offers you direct connectivity. So for example, the POP in Mumbai will be connected to all the other POPs of CloudConnexa. So it will be connected to Paris, it will be connected to London, etc. And what this does is, because there's direct connectivity, your latency is reduced and you get high performance. Also, because of mesh topology, if one route fails, there are always other redundant routes to reach the same destination. Let's go on to the key terms here, WPC and Cloud ID. CloudConnexa service is a multi-tenant service. That means that all the regions, the core network I just described, the mesh networking, and all the other elements of our platform are shared with all customers, and they are virtually isolated. So we do not spin up dedicated servers for each customers. Instead, from the get-go, we have used multi-tenant architecture. What this does is it brings the cost of the service down, and we pass on that cost savings to our customers. The other important aspect of being multi-tenant is that as soon as you sign up, the overlay network is ready for you. And we call this overlay network wide area private cloud. When you sign up, you have to choose a cloud ID. So here you can see the cloud ID as wpcname.openvpn.com. You can choose any name that you like as long as it's unique within our system. And this kind of acts like a subdomain of openvpn.com. And this is the this is the URL where you will be accessing your administration portal. And later on, you'll see how using the same URL, your users are able to get their connection profiles. So to think about it very simplistically, you can think about our service as a virtual router and a powerful next generation firewall, all up there in the cloud. Along with the cloud ID, you can think of as this is has been something that has been set up and dedicated for yourself. And the 30 odd points of presence or regions are essentially the ports for this router. With this kind of simplistic explanation in mind, the next question is, how do we connect user servers networks to the ports or the regions, which is stand-ins for this virtual distributed routers ports. So what we do is we use OpenVPN protocol to create these encrypted secure tunnels over the internet. So this secure encrypted tunnel you can think of as a virtual super long Ethernet cable that is connecting your device to the router's port. So the next question is, okay, how do I create these tunnels? So to create these tunnels, you need to use a client app to set up the tunnel. So the official client app is called OpenVPN Connect. It's available for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. For Linux, we recommend using our open source OpenVPN 3 client, which also has support for DCO. DCO is a technology which further improves data throughput performance using kernel support. And OpenVPN protocol compatible routers like Ubiquiti or open source firmware like OpenWRT and many others can also be used to get connectivity to this service. Now you'll see that there are two terms here. Sometimes we call it Connect Client app. Sometimes we call it a connector. So what's the difference? So both of these are, using the same OpenVPN client, and but the term connector we use to distinguish this connection from another connection, like a typically on-demand connection from a remote user. Even though the connector is using the same client app, the context in which it is set up in the administration portal and the configuration profile allows the connector to create an always-on, unattended connection. So that means, you don't need a user to log in and provide username, password, etc. It's unattended, it's an always on, and it's meant to provide access to applications hosted on servers. It also runs on networks, so it can provide applications that are hosted on the network, and in turn can provide the devices that are on the network access to the WPC services. So hopefully that's clear. Other common terms like user devices, users, user groups, etc. Are pretty relatable, so I'm not going to cover that here. Next, we cover hosts, networks, and applications. So even though there are physical networks, when we say network, and when we say host, these are representations of an application server in the case of a host, or a private network in the case of a private network, inside of CloudConnexa or inside of the configuration portal. So an application server on which the connector is installed with the intention of providing access to applications is configured as a host in CloudConnexa, whereas a private network which provides access to the WPC for devices on the network, or can also provide access to applications hosted on the network, is represented as a network. And then applications are services that are identified by the domain name and which are made accessible to the WPC. For example, this host is making these two services accessible to the WPC. So it's running RDP and acting as an FTP server, and we are configuring them as applications using these two domain names. So that's it. Hopefully this has given you a good grounding before we go on to the use cases. Let me check if there are any questions at this point in time. Okay, no questions so far. So let me proceed to, as soon as I check, okay, there you go. Let me proceed to what makes our service different. So this slide covers what makes a service unique, and also the way it makes it unique really facilitates easy use by tech-savvy folks like yourself. Because the service is targeted for small, medium businesses, we know that these businesses don't have the networking, cybersecurity expertise that some large businesses might have a complete team dedicated to. So that's why we have focused on making the setup very easy. You will see later that we have various setup wizards. And the other point is that our service comes with 3 free connections. So we do this because we want you to get started quickly and to see the value in our solution right away before making any purchases. CloudConnexa also eliminates the complexity of configuring routing using IP addresses. Instead, we use domain names to identify applications and networks for routing among multiple connected networks. So this is not DNS, this is actually using the domain names to identify networks and applications and to route to them. So you will see sometimes, this is very unlike router configuration in which you need to do a lot of IP address routing table changes, and you need to kind of know all about subnets and seeders and all that stuff. So again, this is another step which makes it very easy. We also have built-in content filtering and IDS IPS security features, which provides a one-stop solution and reduces operational costs. And lastly, we use a very economical pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-use rather pricing for simultaneous connections rather than pricing per user or per device. So you can add as many users as you like and as many devices. As long as more than 3 devices don't connect simultaneously, your needs can just be met with the free plan. Okay, so now let's start covering the use cases. So I'm sure all of you know about DNS. DNS is the system that is used to obtain IP addresses corresponding to domain names like google.com. So I'm going to set up here how CloudConnexa secures that DNS interaction and provides DNS-based content filtering. So consider the scenario in which your device is connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot, like at the airport or the cafe. So the DNS servers are sent to the device. The DNS servers are under the control of that network. So if it's a rogue network, they could easily send you a phishing site's IP address instead of the authentic IP address. But when you connect to CloudConnexa, 2 things happen. One is that you use CloudConnexa DNS servers. And second is that all the DNS traffic is securely tunneled directly to CloudConnexa. So a rogue Wi-Fi hotspot cannot carry out a man-in-the-middle attack. The traffic continues, so the data traffic, your traffic to the internet, continues to flow directly to your internet service provider. It does not go to the WPC. So when the DNS query comes to CloudConnexa for resolution to an IP address, all these DNS queries are examined and the domain name is matched against a category database. So we get various feeds from reputable companies. And what this database does is it maps the domain name to the kind of content that website provides. We also have a mapping here for all sorts of domain names that fall into malicious categories. For example, adware, cryptojacking, malware, phishing sites. So all these kinds of categories are also in our database. So when there is a match, for example, here at the bottom, here's an example of someone trying to access a domain which is in a blocked content category. So that blocked content category could just be all these malicious sites, or it could also be just a variety of content categories, like maybe a news site or adult content site, whatever. So once it's determined that, okay, this domain name is in a malicious category, for example, we do not send back the true IP address. Instead, we send back a IP address which results to the server not being reachable. So the data traffic cannot go to the malicious website, and that's essentially how Cyber Shield domain filtering protects your device and yourself from cyber threats. So now I'll hand it to Sean. He's going to demonstrate the settings and show you an example of how this works.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen here. So let's look at Shield and Cyber Shield and domain filtering here. Before we start, I just want to show you something here. If I go to networks, as you can see, my network split tunnel is on for internet access. Just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Just keep in mind that our split tunnel is on. So in order to enable Shield, you're going to go to Shield on the menu bar. You click on that. The very first time you want to enable it, you're going to see a windows like this. So the first step is enabling domain filtering here. Now, when it comes to domain filtering, we have multiple protection level. As you can see, basic for harmful websites, safe browsing, we add blocking adult contents and a couple more categories. And then we got high productivity, basically blocking everything. Now, when it comes to monitor only, keep in mind it's just monitoring and nothing's being blocked. So in order to have some kind of protection level, you want to choose one of these levels. So once you're happy with the selection, click on enable. The second step is going to be enabling traffic filtering. If you remember a minute ago, I showed you that in our use case here, our split tunnel is off. So basically traffic is not coming to WPC. IPS and IDS will not have any effect. So enabling traffic filtering here doesn't do anything for us. But if we had the split tunnel off, we had multiple protection level, as you can see here. And then we had the monitor only as well. So you can choose the protection that you need, and then monitoring is just the monitoring and nothing is being blocked. Again, this if our split tunnel was off, which is not our use case right now. Anyway, when you're happy with your selection, then it's time to go ahead and enable it. So click on enable, and as you can see, traffic filtering and domain filtering are enabled on both. Now, again, if we had the split tunnel off and we want to reconfigure traffic filtering, we would have clicked on this pencil and we could change the priority level or even the categories. But again, this doesn't apply to our use case here. We're going to go to domain filtering. Click on the pencil. As you can see, the protection levels are displayed here. We chose basic protection, which is basically malicious items such as adware, malware, phishing, ransomware, and so on. So if you go to safe browsing, we got a couple more categories added, like adult content, aggressive content, alcohol and tobacco, hijacking or hacking and cracking, and then high productivity, which basically it's all 43 categories. Now, you can see that bandwidth consuming is added here, gambling in games is added, and malicious and time stealers such as social media or entertainment and so on. If you choose custom, this is where you can choose if you want to select all 43 or if you want to unselect some of them. So if I click on select all 43 are selected, but if I want to allow any of the categories, I can just go ahead and uncheck that. Now, if I want to search for any category, I can just type it in the search and that category should be displayed on the screen. So for example, file storage, I'm going to unselect that here also. So I want to allow file storage through my WPC. Once you're happy with everything and you selected everything that you would like to have blocked, then you can scroll down and click on Save button. So the categories are saved. Now, one of the categories you see here is news and media. So any news media website should be blocked. So let's look at the user experience here, what happens. I'm going to open a tab and let's go to, for example, CNN.com. As you can see, the page is coming up. We're going to go to another page like foxnews.com, for example. Here we go. Again, it's going to come up. So let's see what happens when we get connected to our WPC. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Connect app here, and we're going to connect as one of the user here, Midas. So we're going to connect as Midas. Let's connect. Yeah, okay, we're connected right now. So let's see what happens if we try to go to these websites. I'm going to open up another browser or another tab so we don't use the cache. I'm going to go to CNN.com, and CNN is blocked. This site cannot be reached. But what about foxnews.com? Let's try that. Here we go, Fox News. Okay, let's see. And this site can now be reached again as expected because news are being blocked. Now let's say that I want to allow CNN.com but keep everything else blocked. So I go to allow list and type CNN.com in the allow list. And then once you're happy with that, click on save to save this. Now we should be still connected. Here we go. Midas is still connected. Let's go ahead and open up a tab or the browsers here. Let me bring them back up here. And I'm going to just refresh CNN.com. And here we go. The page is up. What about the Fox News? Let's refresh that. And still cannot be reached because it's on our block list. So again, this is how we use allow list. You can add other domains that are being blocked. Now let's look at the block list. Block list is easy enough that, if you want to block any domain, you can just type the domain here. But let's make it interesting. We're going to look at Google, for example. Google and all its subdomains are allowed through our WPC right now. For example, I can go to Maps. I can go to Translate. Again, as you can see, all the subdomains of Google are available. So let's go to Gmail, for example. And here we go. Gmail has come up. So now let's say that we want to still allow everybody to access Google and all its subdomains, but we don't want people to access Gmail. So I'm going to go to block list and type mail.google.com, which is the address for Gmail. And then I'm going to add that. And then click on save to save the settings. And then let's go ahead and test that. So we're still connected. As you can see, this is connected. And we're going to go ahead and open up a tab. And we're going to go to, let's go Google Maps. Again, Maps is available. Let's try Translate, Google Translate, still available. But what happened to Gmail? And Gmail is blocked. This site cannot be reached, again, as expected. So this was a good example of how we can just block a subdomain. Again, if you want to block any domains, you can just come here and type the whole domain. Now, we look at the block list, allow list, and block categories. One other thing I want to mention here, uploading the list. So if you point your mouse to the button, you're going to see that you can upload a TXT file if you have a lot of domains that you want to block. Just a number, the limit is 1,000, and the file size cannot be more than 300 kilobits. So if you want to upload a list, you can do this instead of typing one at a time. That goes for the allow list as well. If you have a lot of domains that you want to allow, you can just upload a TXT file to the portal. Now, if you have a lot of domains that you want to get the list of it, you can download the list either for block list or allow list. You can download the list by clicking on that icon. So we look at the block categories, allow list, and block list. The last thing I want to show you here is top 10 dashboard. Obviously, traffic filtering doesn't apply to us here, but let's look at the domain filtering or block domain. This is a good place to come and see a report, basically. So you have different time intervals that you can look, like 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, and last hour. So you can choose what interval you want to look, and then you can see what was blocked. And if you want to export the report, you can click on this link, and a report or CSV file will be emailed to you or the admin. You can also click on this little button on the bottom of the page, and you can look at the block domains by categories, and you can download that list as well by clicking on this icon. Now, if you have investigate mode on, you can drill down on each of these categories. Basically, click on the category that you want to see, then you can see who were the users, and if you click on the user, you can see what device that user used when they got that blocked domains or filters. So this is a good place to come and drill down and investigate if there is something going on with your environment. So this was a quick presentation or demo of Cyber Shield and the steps that it needs to be taken to enable it. I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'll pass it to Rohit again. So let's look
Okay, I'm switching screens and sharing. So Sean, you can see my slide for securing RDP.
That's correct. Yeah, I can see it.
All right, great. So as you all know, probably RDP is a Microsoft protocol that can be used to access the desktop of one Windows computer from another device. It is very easy to set up and use if both devices are on the same network. That is the easy case. But what happens if you want to access it from anywhere? So you want to access your desktop that's at your home from somewhere else, let's say a cafe or a hotel or wherever you might be, maybe even work. That becomes complicated very fast because you might need to have a static IP address at your home, or you need to use a dynamic DNS, enable port forwarding, DMZ in your home router, and so on and so forth. But with CloudConnexa, we provide a very simple solution. As I had mentioned earlier, if you configure your Windows RDP server as a host and deploy a connector on it, the connector will create this unattended tunnel, encrypted tunnel, and it's an outbound connection. So there is no need to open any ports or change anything with your home router setup. Basically, as soon as the connector is installed, it creates an outbound connection to a region that you can choose. Typically, it's something that's close to the area in which your house is. And then let's say you are in New York on a business trip, then you can use your client on your laptop, connect to our New York area region, and then because the host has been given a domain name, you just set up your RDP client to connect to that domain name, and the traffic will go to New York through our mesh network to the Los Angeles region, and then back to your RDP server. So it's pretty easy to set up, no need to change or touch your router at home. So let's see Sean now demonstrating this to you.
Okay, give me a second here. And we should be good to go here. Okay, let's go ahead and configure the remote desktop as a host with a host name of rdp.home.local. As you can see, I'm on admin UI, so I'm going to go to host and then click on add host to create a new one. Let's name it RDP to make it easy here, and then for the domain home.local. For the connector, I'm just going to type it RDP connector again to just make it easy. And when it comes to region, we are in Los Angeles area, but if you're in different region, obviously you choose that. I'm going to just choose Los Angeles and click on next. So this is where we need to deploy the host connector on our RDP. It's a Windows machine, so I'm going to choose Windows. Now, as you can see, there are two steps that we need to follow. First one, we're going to download the Connect app, and then we need to run the Connect app as a service. So let me go ahead and download the client here. Let's click download. It's going to take a second. It's a zip file. When it's done, I'm going to double click. Oops, let me double click and open it. And then we're going to extract the files. As you can see, there are two, there's a Connect app installation file, and there's a profile in the folder. Here we go. And then I'm going to run the Connect app to install it. Double click on it, and we're going to go through the installation. Obviously, everybody knows how to install these applications. That shouldn't take more than a second here. And then when we're done, we're going to import the profile. Here we go. Okay, click on finish, and we're going to wait till the app opens up. And here we go. So first time when you open up the Connect app, there are a couple of slides that you need to go through. Basically, it's just tips. And then once you're done with everything, click on agree to the terms, and then notice about the updates. And here we're going to download or import the profile. So I go to files, and then the profile is this file here, the bundled. Click on browse, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder and import this. Let me select it, import the file here. And then we're going to click on connect. And we should get connected in a second. Here we go. We are connected right now. Now, let's go back to the portal. Let me close these windows here, and we're going to go to the portal. And the second step is running the OpenVPN Connect app as a service. So if you click on this link, it's going to open up a web page. Basically, it's a user guide about the CloudConnexa apps. The first part is the installation. We just went through that. The second part is the starting the system service. So we need to open the command prompt and run it as administrator. So let me go ahead and open the command prompt here. Here we go. And then we run it as admin, and it's open up. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, let me move the screen away so we can see everything. First, we need to go to the top of the directory. So I'll do cd slash forward slash. Here it is. All the commands are here to make it easy. And or on the top of the directory, now we need to go to the OpenVPN Connect directly. So just copy this command and paste it in your command prompt. And we are on the in the same directory. Now the next thing we need to do, we need to run the .exe file to install it. So just again, copy this command and paste it in your terminal. As you can see, service installed successfully. That's pretty quick. Now, if you scroll down to the step 8, I believe here it is, we can run this command to start the service. This basically is a start command. So I'm just going to copy this and run it in the terminal again or in the command prompt. Now, keep in mind our service is already running, but I just want to show you the process and click on enter or hit enter. And as you can see, the service is already running. So that's as far as the installing the Connect app goes. Let's go back to our CloudConnexa admin UI. Now, so we did the 2 steps, click on next, and it's going to verify the connector is connected and installed correctly. So click on next. Now, when it comes to applications and IP services, I'm going to go through this on the next demo. So I'm just going to skip it here, click on next, and go to the IP services. And then I'll do the same thing for the IP services. Again, we're going to go over that in next demo. Now I want to create an access group. So I click on create access group, and I'm just going to name it RDP group or something like this. And then choose the group, which is RDP users here. We already have that group. And then we want to make sure that the destination is the RDP host that we just created. So click on create. So once this is done, the last thing we need to do is just go ahead and click on finish to finish our host configuration. There we go, it's done. So let's refresh the page to make sure that our host is online, and it is online. Now, I have a user already part of the RDP users group. Mike is here, as you can see. So we're going to try to connect with Mike's account from my computer, which I'm sitting in a different location that are RDP. So I'm being considered as a remote user. So let me bring up, here we go. I'm on my own laptop here. And I'm going to bring my Connect app. As you can see, I already have mic profiles here. So I'm going to connect. It's going to take a second. We're connected with Mike's account. Now, let me bring up my remote desktop app, and we're going to try to RDP to our server with the hostname rdp.home.local. So here we go. Let me type the address again, rdp.home.local, and click on connect. Type the password for admin here and click OK. Yes. And here we go. We are connected to our server or our RDP server. So this is how we configure the remote desktop server as a host with the host name and let the connection go through the WPC or CloudConnexa. Let me stop sharing right now and we're going to go back to Rohit again.
All right, thanks, Sean. So just a few comments on the demo that you saw. The reason that we ran the Connect app as a service on Windows is so that it is always running in the background, especially if you have it on Windows Server Edition or something like that. The service keeps running regardless of whether users are logging in or logging out. So this connection from your RDP server is always on. Another thing about access controls, while it is very good to have access controls and just like Sean demonstrated how to create them in our system, if you are using it for personal use, then you can just stay with a default setting, which is that everyone gets access to everything. So since you have trusted users and you'll probably make all the applications in your home network available to yourself and your family members or others who need access, you can just stay with our default settings. If you want to make it extra secure, you can follow the access group steps that Sean showed. So let's go to the next scenario, which is remote access to your home network. So this is kind of the same, except now the connector, instead of it being on a computer that itself was a server, that computer is going to be set up as a router. So NAT will be enabled so that the traffic flows correctly without making any route table changes on your router. This other computer on your network is going to see the traffic as coming from the computer on which the connector was installed. So it sends the traffic back to the computer with the connector installed, and that's acting as a router, which will then communicate with the WPC. So you need to represent your home network as a network in CloudConnexa. You need to configure your applications that you want to be reachable in your home network. And then you need to add DNS records so that there is a relationship between the name and the private IP address that has been assigned in your home network for all of these applications and services. So here are the top steps. We have seen two of the steps already, which is the installation of the connector. Then the new things are the NAT and the routing, and enabling and configuring applications and adding DNS records. So with that, Sean, over to you.
Okay, good. So we are going to look at how to remote access to our home network. As you can see, I'm on admin UI, and first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a network. So click on the networks and then choose networks again, and then we're going to click on add network. Obviously it's a remote access, so we're going to choose remote access and click on continue. Let's give it a name. I'm just going to call it RDP home, just to have a name. And then for the connector, I'm going to call it RDP home connector again. It's easy for me to associate this connector with this network. Then you choose the region. Here it's going to be in Chicago, so we're going to choose Chicago here, and then we're going to click on next. Now, this is the part that you saw in the previous demo. We need to install the connector, Windows, again, download the app, and then there are a couple of other steps that we need to follow. I'm gonna skip these first step and the second step because we just saw that a few minutes ago. But I'm gonna download the app because I need the profile so I can get my Connect app connected. So let's go ahead and download it. The zip file is being downloaded here right now. And let me go ahead, open that. And we're gonna extract it. Okay, so again, this is the install file. We're not going to do that because the client app is already installed here. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to double click on the profile to import the profile to the Connect app. So let me close these two windows here. And here we go. Import the profile. You're going to click on OK. And then RDP home, that's the one we're going to connect. Should take a second to connect. And here we go, we're connected. So again, second step, run the Connect app as a service. We just saw that in the previous demo, so I'm gonna skip that. The third step is gonna be enabling routing and NAT. Now, if you click on that link, it's gonna open up another website with the instructions. This is the page you're gonna see, instructions on enabling routing and NAT on the Windows server. So let me minimize this screen a little bit, and I got my server manager on the side so we can follow the steps. So first we need to go to server manager. We want to make sure local servers is selected, and then click on tools and choose routing and remote access. Now it's going to take a second to open up the window. Once it's open, we're going to right click on the server and select configure and enable routing. So here we go, I just did that. Then we're going to go through the motion and through the steps. Now, as you can see here, there are a couple of conditions. If the routing is needed, you choose LAN routing, and if the NAT is needed, you choose the steps that you see on the screen. But we don't have those, so we're going to just choose network address translation or NAT and click on next. And then here we're going to choose our LAN routing. For me is the Ethernet 2 here. So I'm just going to select that. If I can move my mouse, here we go. And let's, for some reason, my mouse is acting up here right now. Okay, here we go. And then we go click next and then finish. We're done. Again, this is going to take a second here for it to enable the routing. And then once it's done, here we go. One more. Okay, it's enabled. As you can see, there's a little green check mark next to it. Let's go back to the portal and we're going to click on next. So our connector is connected and everything is good. Click on next. Here, where we're going to add the applications. Now, these applications can be a NAS drive, a print server, anything. Here we have a shared folder with two folders inside of it, file and music. So we're going to add that. So the name is shared. Let me type that. And then the domain is home.local here. And then for the application types or protocol, we need to enable SMB port protocol. So click on custom, and we're going to add the 2 ports for the TCP and 2 ports for UDP. So the ports are here they are 139 and 445, and then for the UDP is 137 and 138. So we're going to add those here and then click on submit. And once we're done, click on add. So we have our shared application is added. And then we're going to click next. There's no IP services or routing here, so I'm just going to skip this and click on next. Now here we're going to create an access group. Basically, we're going to say who has access to what. So let's name it, I'm going to call it Home RDP. And then the user group, I already have a tech support group, so I'm going to just choose that. You can create another group if you want to. And then for the destination, we're going to use the RDP Home, the shared application that we just created. And click on create. So now we got the access policy or access group in place also. Now it's time to click on finish to finish our network configuration. Okay, so it is finished, and as you can see, it's online. The application is here, shared.home.local, and the connector is online as well. Now we're gonna go to settings. We have one more step. We need to add the DNS record. So go to DNS, and then here we go, and then click on DNS records, and then click on plus sign. So we're going to add that. It's going to be shared.home.local. Now we need to have the IP address. Obviously, this shared folder is on the server. So let me get the IP address of the server. Here we go. And it's 192.168.8.213. So I'm going to get this IP address and paste it here and then click on create. So we created our DNS record as well. So we got the access group created, the home RDP group. We have our network set up, the RDP home. And we have our application services set up. And then let's go to users and see who's in tech support. Okay, Braden, here we go in front of us. Braden is part of tech support. I'm gonna minimize the my remote desktop, and I'm gonna come back to my local computer here, and I'm gonna connect as Braden. Again, I'm sitting in front of my own computer, and the server is in another different location. So we're connected. Okay, here's run, and I'm gonna type the address shared.home.local. And this should take a second, and I should be able to connect to my shared folder. Here we go. I'm connected to my shared folder, which is in my on my server at home. Now I can access anything within this shared folder if I double click on it. Again, remember, this can be a NAS drive, can be print server, it can be another computer, it can be any devices on your network. For example, just for this use case, we're just using a shared folder on the server. Here we go. If I double click on the shared, I can see files and music. If I double click on files, I can have access to anything that's under files. And if I double click on music, I can have access to anything that's under music. So this is how you access your network, or you have you can create a remote access to your network. I'm going to stop sharing right now and going back to Rohit. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. So before going on to the next item, I just want to mention that even though we used a Windows computer, we chose that because Windows probably is the most widely deployed operating system. We do have instructions for installing that connector on Mac OS and on Linux too. So whatever works for your environment, you can go ahead and try that out. Next, we are going to talk about secure access to the internet. So why would you want to do that? Let's say you want to browse the internet from the airport or from Wi-Fi hotspot somewhere. You are not really sure what's being captured in that public network, and you want to take the extra security protection of keeping your privacy in terms of the traffic being assured that the traffic is being encrypted all the way to your home network, and you're accessing internet from a completely encrypted communication till your trusted internet gateway and your trusted internet service provider. So let's start from the left. what you would need to do is the user group in which you have been configured as a user, you need to turn the split tunnel setting, or rather the internet access configuration, to split tunnel off. What this does is it starts encapsulating and putting all the traffic um, that's originating from your device into the tunnel and to the WPC. Now, once this internet traffic enters the WPC, you need to let your WPC know how to route this, right? So once the internet traffic is coming in, what should the WPC do next? So that's where you configure this setting called the internet gateway setting on any one of your connected networks. Once you configure this setting, WPC knows, okay, this is the exit point for all internet traffic. And then the internet traffic will exit out of that network. And as one of the things is that any servers that are on the internet receiving this traffic, they are going to see the IP address of your home network as the source IP address, because all the way from your user device to the internet gateway, everything was in this encrypted tunnel, and your internet gateway or the connector on your computer is running NAT. And when it comes out and reaches the ultimate destination, the source IP address will be that of the public IP address assigned by the ISP to your home router/modem. So that's how the traffic flows. That's how the IP address assignment works, etc. So back to Sean for the demo.
So in this demo, we're looking at securing the internet via our home network. So as you can see, I'm on admin UI, and we're gonna configure a new network as an internet gateway. So click on network, expand it, click on networks again, and here we're gonna click on add network. And then for the scenarios, we're going to use a secure internet access. This is basically, we're going to use this network as an internet gateway for all internet traffic, or just selected public resources or private resources. Let's give it a name. I'm just going to call it like IG for, short for internet gateway. Let's see, IG network, for example. And then for the connector, I'm just going to call it IG network connector. So this way I can distinguish this connector from the rest of them. Once you're done with the name, you need to choose the region that your machine is. Mine is in Los Angeles, so I'm just going to leave it as Los Angeles and click on next. Now, the next part, we already seen it in the previous demos, so I'm just going to choose Windows. I'm not going to go through the step of installing the Connect app or run it as a service or enable routing as an routing and NAT. We saw that in the previous demos. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to download the Connect app so I can get the profile from there. So let me go ahead, double click on the zip file here, and let me extract the files here. Okay, extract, and here we go. We got the two files here. We got the profile and we got the Connect app. Again, I'm not going to double click on Connect app to install it. I'm just going to double click on profile to import it. So here we go. As you can see, it's trying to import the profile. Click on OK, and this is for IG network. As you can see, click on Connect. So this is going to take a second, and we should get connected here. And here we go. We're connected. Now again, step 2 and step 3, we're going to skip here because we saw it in last demo. Click on next, and we're going to verify the connector is connected. We get the green light. Click on next. Now here you got two scenarios. Either you can choose selected application or IP services, or just send all internet traffic to the WPC. Now I'm gonna unselect the networks and host because we're just creating a network here. And then here you can choose the groups, user groups that you wanna have this option that all internet traffic goes through the WPC. I'm just selecting the RDP users and tech support. Now, the next step, if we want to add any application, we saw this in previous demo. I'm going to skip it here, click on next, and then the IP services again. I'm going to click on next. There's no IP services or routing here. Now, as far as the access group, if you need to create an access group, you can create it here, but there's no access group for this scenario. I'm just going to click on finish. So our network is created. Let me go ahead, click on networks to refresh the page. And as you can see, IG network is online. Now, if I go to my users and user groups, as you can see, my tech support and RDP users, the split tunnel now shows off. And that's because the two user groups that we selected to have all their internet connection goes through WPC. Now let's go ahead and test this. First, I'm going to find the IP address of this server here. So just open and type what is my IP address in Google, and here we go. This is the IP address of this server that's in the remote location. Now I'm sitting in a different location. Let's look at see what is my IP address here. In my location, my IP address is 47.151.183.36. So let's go ahead and connect. Braden is part of our tech support, if you remember from previous demo. So we're going to connect with Braden. Now, since we set up the user group, all internet traffic for this user group goes through WPC. I'm going to refresh my page here to get the new IP address. And as you can see now, my IP address is the same as the IP address of my server, which is sitting in Los Angeles. So this is how we route all internet traffic through WPC. Now, let me disconnect here, and I'm going to go back to the server. I want to just show you one more thing here. So if I want to basically change one of the existing networks to route internet, such as OVNet, before creating the IG network. Just again, as you can see, the split tunnel is on, the internet gateway is off. All I have to do is just go to the network, click on edit, and turn the internet gateway on. Once the internet gateway is on, I'm going to update it, and then I can go to user groups and choose the group that I want to have all their internet connection goes through the WPC. Click on the group, click on edit, and this is where you can change the internet access to split tunnel off, and you can update it. Again, this scenario is if you don't want to create a new network for internet gateway and you want to use one of your existing networks and select it as the internet gateway, so certain groups they can choose to have their internet connection goes through the WPC. One last thing that I'm going to show you very quickly here, how to secure access to the internet applications or online websites via your home network. I'm going to disconnect from existing one. Going to different WPC, click on networks. Again, we saw this in a minute ago. Secure internet access, click on continue. Let's give it a name here so we know which one we're working with here with the connector. Again, you saw this multiple times today during all different demos that we did. Let me choose the region here. So I'm going to go through this very quickly and then click next. Now we obviously installing connector. We saw that again. So I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to import the profile so we can connect, and then the services also. You've seen it. So this, let me extract the files here. And here we go. And I'm going to import the profile. So let me close these two windows and here we go. Importing it, and it's going to be APPIG. That's our new network. So click on connect. Now we're connected and the status is on. This is the part that I want to show you. In the previous section, we did all internet traffic. Here we're going to select applications or IP services because we want to secure only a certain application or website. In my case, I'm just going to do what is my IP address.com, and this is because we can distinguish the IP addresses when we go through the tunnel. The protocols, I'm going to choose HTTP or HTTPS actually for the ports and click add. Keep in mind, here you can add other websites if you want, netflix.com, hulu.com, your bank, for example, bank's website, credit card website. Click next, and then there's no IP services. I'm going to click next again. Now here I'm going to create an access group. Let's call it the, for example, APP IG group. And then my groups, the users that I need them to have access to this is going to be home users, and it's going to be app IG, the network. Now we need to remove the full mesh because otherwise the APP IG group is not going to go into effect. Click create, and then the network is created. As you can see, it's online. So let's look at the users, see who's in the home group. We got Ella and Emma. Both of them are a home users group. So I'm gonna go back to my local computer right now, my laptop that I'm sitting in front. Let's look at my IP addresses. So my IP address is 47, and let's look at what is my IP address again, starting with 47.151. I'm not connected to WPC. So I'm gonna import Emma's profile here. Let me do this here very quickly. Next. And then I need to type the username password. Let me do that again, Emma, and the password. And I have to choose a region here because since we're logging in first, I'm Atlanta. And connect. So Emma is connected. Now, everything should go outside of the WPC. As you can see, my Google still shows the same IP address, but what is my IP address.com should go through the WPC or CloudConnexa. And here we go. As you can see, different IP address. What is the IP address? Let me go back to my server, and here, let me open up another tab, and I'm going to type what is my IP address. So as you can see, this is the IP address of my server. So that basically shows that this website goes through the CloudConnexa or WPC. So this is how you can secure access to certain applications online. Again, this can be a bank website, it can be a credit card website, or it can be something like a Netflix or Hulu or a streaming site. No matter what, you can select to have that application goes through the WPC. So this was the last part of this demo. I'm gonna pass it to Rohit. I'm gonna stop sharing here so Rohit can take over and finalize this webinar. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sean. So a couple of points just to wrap up Sean's demo. One is that as you saw when the internet gateway is turned on, everything, all the internet traffic flows through the WPC. And earlier, Sean talked about traffic filtering, Cyber Shield acting as a IPS, IDS. So that's when it can be very useful, is it can look at, inspect all that traffic and, protect you from malicious intrusions, etc. Another point is in the demo, Sean showed that two networks were acting as the internet gateway. So yes, it's possible to have multiple internet gateways on the WPC. The question arises, okay, if there are multiple internet gateways, which one is going to be chosen for, for the route for internet traffic egress? The answer is that WPC uses smart routing. So based on where the user is, the network performance, etc., it will choose the internet gateway that's best suited at that point in time. And then lastly, just to reinforce the demo that Sean presented about just configuring some domains here. Let's say the example is finance.com, which is out there on the internet as an application that is reachable from this network. So when you do that, you don't need to change the internet access from split tunnel on to off. You can keep it split tunnel on, and just that traffic to finance.com, it goes inside of the tunnel and exits out from that network, getting the IP address of that network. All the other traffic that's internet traffic, let's say minus finance.com, keeps taking the direct path out to the local internet. So with that, and since we are running short on time, I'm not going through all the points that we just covered. I hope you find this webinar useful, and please, as a courtesy, fill out the survey that you will see pop up once you sign off from Zoom. Thank you very much. Sean, any concluding remarks from you?
No, thank you everyone for participating. I really appreciate it. We'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.